Progress.
Okay, a great day to one and all, and welcome to our class and last week for the previous meetings, we were able to discuss some important things about your research, particularly your quantitative research and also your qualitative research. And for now, how about there are some instances wherein numbers alone cannot give a good picture. Also, there are instances wherein qualities or interviews alone do not also give a better picture of a certain scenario or of a certain case or of a certain phenomenon. And there would be many instances, perhaps, that combining these two, that having numbers, both quantitative and qualitative data, are actually necessary to come up with a better interpretation, with a better understanding of the research process and its goals. Hence, there are some researchers, or maybe some of you might be interested in combining both quantitative and qualitative methods in your research. So, when the research problem is complex, or if the researcher suspects that one method or strategy may not comprehensively address the research problem, multiple research methods may be used. For example, multiple methods design, or a second research strategy may be used to supplement the core method. That is, you can also pursue what we call a mixed method design. So, according to Frankel and Wallen, when we speak about there are actually three major mixed method designs. So, in mixed method design, so usually you have a portion where you have your quantitative data analysis. And there are also instances wherein you have your qualitative data analysis. And there are also instances wherein one is been given more importance, has been given more importance or weight than the other. There are also instances wherein both quantitative and qualitative data analysis are given equal weights. So first, let's talk about the first one, which is what we call the exploratory design, which is okay, your capital qual plus one. Okay. So in this design, researchers first use a qualitative method to discover the important variables underlying a phenomenon of interest and to inform a second quantitative method. So you might be asking, how come it's capital qual here? Everything here is capital, but for the qual, the QUAL represents the qualitative, and the the QUAN represents the quantitative aspect of the research. However, the qual here is actually capitalized because in this particular mixed method design, the researcher is giving more premium or more importance to qualitative data analysis, whereas the quantitative aspect of the study is just like a supplementary, it's like a supplement or an addition only to your study. So the qualitative has more weight and it's given more importance here. And you might be thinking, okay, what's the purpose of doing this? Some researchers would use this design if they first wanted, for example, if they wanted to come up with an instrument, say a Likert scale, some would say Likert, some would say Likert scale, or to come up with a questionnaire or say another type of instrument that could give or yield quantitative measures. Okay, um, for example, let's talk about this. Okay, so let me pause the recording first. By the way, okay, and please allow me to stop my video. Thank you. They seek to discover the relationships among these variables. If there is really a relationship between the quantitative variable and qualitative variable, is there a correlation? Let's say, are they really supporting one another? Is there no relationship between the quantitative and qualitative findings, or are they contradicting each other? This type of design is often used in the construction of questionnaires of or rating scales designed to measure various topics of interest. That's why that's the purpose, no? Interview ka anay, what else? FGD or focus group discussions, observe or do whatever you need to do as long as it's ethical and you would be able to gather qualitative data. So in the exploratory design, you pursue first, you gather qualitative data first, which is actually a higher priority in your study. And after gathering qualitative data, you can make your questionnaire or instrument out of that. That instrument should be designed to gather quantitative data. And after you have both data, you combine them and interpret your results. But again, I would like to emphasize that in the exploratory design, your qualitative data analysis should be more voluminous or should be more intricate, or let's say it's given more emphasis than your quantitative data analysis. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is what we call explanatory design, or what we also call the quan plus qual. This time, capital. The quan is in all caps, whereas the qual is not in all caps. So what is the explanatory design all about? Would you mind reading this for us, Ma'am Lyoji?
The explanatory design. In this design, the researcher first carries out a quantitative method and then uses a qualitative method to follow up and refine the quantitative findings. The two types of data are analyzed separately, with the results of the qualitative analysis used by the researcher to expand upon the results of the quantitative study.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So in the explanatory design, quantitative data is given more and analysis is given more emphasis and importance than qualitative data analysis. So, for example, in this design, quantitative you pursue a quantitative study first. For example, you pursue first a descriptive correlational design. You can pursue a quasi-experimental or experimental design to gather quantitative data. And after gathering your quantitative data, you pursue next a qualitative study. For example, um, you will interview them, you will interview some of them, and you will select your appropriate participants, no, who could give you the needed data. For example, let's say you could select them through what we call theoretical sampling, or let's say through purposeful sampling, and after which you combine and interpret the results. In some explanatory design studies, what they do first is that they do all the quantitative data analysis, and usually the quantitative analysis is longer. It's and the qualitative is just a small portion, just to talk about, or let's say to explain more. Do you think the reasons behind, for example, the quantitative findings? And of course, you have to combine them and interpret the results. All right. And there is another type, which is what we call the triangulation design, or the quan plus qual. So you could notice that both quan and qual are all capital. What do you think? What does it mean if both of them are in capital letters, in all caps? It could mean that what? That they are
That they have
given.
same emphasis, sir, ang ilang
Yes. So
weight.
exactly, I agree, no? Both of them are given equal importance. Ma'am Darren, would you mind reading?
Triangulation design. In this design, the researcher uses both quantitative and qualitative methods to study the same phenomenon to determine if the two converge upon a single understanding of the research problem being investigated. If they do not, then the researcher must explore only the two.
Why the two methods
Or
provide different
why the
pictures?
two? I cannot see anymore, sir.
Ay,
There.
sorry.
Ay, aranara, sir. If they do not, then the researcher must explore why the two methods provide different pictures. Okay,
Okay,
that's
thank you. That's why in the triangulation design or in the quan plus qual, equal ang ilang nga bearing. No? So, and in this case, both quantitative and qualitative data are actually collected simultaneously within the research time frame. The data may be analyzed together or separately. And in this design, okay, if analyzed together, data from the qualitative study may have to be converted into quantitative data. For example, if you assign numerical codes in a process that is called quantizing, or the quantitative data may have to be converted into qualitative data, for example, by providing narratives in a process that is called qualitizing. So in this type of design, again, you have an option if you do them separately or if you do them together. So what I have just presented you is what about if you analyze them together at the same time. Okay, if the data are analyzed separately, the convergence or divergence of the results would then be discussed. The underlying rationale for the use of the triangulation design is that the strengths of the two methods will complement each other and offset each method's respective weaknesses. Now, so that's why you have options. There are some instances that those who pursue mixed method designs, they have one section discussing only the quantitative design. And after that particular portion, there is another section wherein they will discuss the qualitative design separately. Okay? But that is if they are analyzed separately. However, there are some researchers who since wanted to give equal importance to each component, and they believed that combining them in a single analysis would give better results than rather than separately. So what happens is in a particular section of the paper, what they do is that they, for example, after giving the quantitative results in that section, he would write there some of the interviews or some themes that could possibly explain or relate to those concepts. So again, ano ang mas maayo? Ang separate sila or together sila? Again, I'm not saying that one is better than the other. It also depends on your panel members. It also depends which will give better understanding to the part of your reader. But in my case, in many of the researches where I would sit as a panel member, many would prefer to discuss them separately. And it's very rare to see them discussed together. But again, if you could find studies, there are many, I believe there are also some in the internet. So sometimes you cannot tell that it's mixed method. Why? Because the researcher was able to seamlessly have the discussion on how he or she connected both quantitative and qualitative findings. So maybe you might be interested to do this type of design later on. And in the design, it would look something like this. So on the same time, let's say on the same day, you gathered both qualitative and quantitative data and you combine them, you combine the results and interpret. And this one is how it looks like now. For example, it's possible like this morning, after giving you the questionnaire, that's for your quantitative findings, I will interview you right away, for example. And the interview part will give you qualitative data, and you can have a single analysis if you happen to combine them. So single analysis only. I mean, a certain section may contain both quanti and quali. If you wish to have them analyzed together, but if you wish to analyze them separately, it's also okay, as long as you give equal emphasis to them. Okay? Questions or qualifications? Ma'ams, sirs? Okay, so no question. Okay. And we also have what we call the multiple methods design. Okay. May I ask you, Sir Jimmy, to please read this one for us?
Sir, good morning.
Good morning.
Batiyaw lang ko, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, good morning. Good morning, everyone. We have multiple method design. Sir, pwede ko danay ka pamangkot about triangulation, sir?
Yes, yes.
Sir, in one of the thesis that I have encountered in one of my advices, sir, I have encountered triangulation according to the panel. Sample, sir, or the respondents, participants, sir, they consider triangulation based, say for example, the title or the is the competency assessment of government officials. So what they did in
Sir, do
triangulation
medyo
is they
buron,
asked
medyo
the
slightly do medyo buron yung mga reception. Would you mind speaking again? Sorry.
okay, sound check.
Sige ba, sir? Try speaking again.
Sir, paos na rin, sir. Mabatiyan na, sir.
Yes, yes.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Consider triangulation method, sir. For example, this title is competence of brand officials. Hindi po nakasignal, sir.
Gachapi gawa, sir? Or if you wish, sir, no? You are free to type them in the chat or PM sa akon. So, depende sa imo, whichever is convenient. Because I think sa signal man siguro. Okay? Sige na, sir, ha? But I'm willing also not to entertain your questions. Thank you, sir. Okay. Sir Tirado, okay lang, sir, ikaw mabasa, sir? Okay lang? Thank
Sige,
you.
sir. So multiple method design. In multiple method research, the two or more projects may be both be quantitative, both qualitative, or one qualitative and one quantitative.
Go on, sir.
These projects are usually a part of a programmatic research. That is, they are a part of a series of funded projects around a common research problem and may only be located in review articles that examine the work of a single investigator or a team.
Okay, thank you. That's why, no, there are instances, for example, that's why usually you can use a multiple method design if you have funding. For example, you have research funding, you have a research team, and let's say may new variables pe. For example, anong in sa mga topic? Let's say AI, no? Let's say AI in education. The use of artificial intelligence in the education of let's say in, and probably some of, di ba, do AI is a very broad field, no? And let's say it's relatively new in your setting. So ikaw nga project leader, let's say you are given 10 million pesos you are expected to come out with 5 researches out of that. So my friend, for example, so ang ginobra sa isang project leader is he also forms other sub-teams. Okay, for example, your group, do an experimental research, let's say about AI. Okay, you make a descriptive correlational research. You make a phenomenological research, something like that, no? So why is that so? You employ many people, you employ many teams to do different types of researches, and probably these researches could also be used, no, to supplement one another, or let's say manami ano yung results nila, no? Would they be complementary? Will they be contradictory? So that's why different types of researches may be conducted by the same overall project leaders, but composed of different teams. They would make different, or they would come up with different researches. And actually, before I was also offered this, no, that the teacher said in a certain university, Sir Kim, are you okay to pursue this type? May aral na sila project eh. May aral na sila proposal. Um, ako daw, am I willing to, I think they have 5 proposals, I think. Other proposals will be pursued by other researchers. Lain-lain kami nga types ng study. In my case kaling, wala ko siya ginbaton kay I'm very busy and hindi man ko gusto nga mabutang man sa ano no, ital-ital ilang nga program that time. So I refused. But again, no, maybe some of you perhaps have experience to be doing projects, no? Dako na siya kwarta dire. So maybe later on, if you have your PhD, probably you would like also to invest in these types of projects. The overall theoretical drive to the program may be identified by the programmatic overall question, and projects may be qualitatively or quantitatively driven, and the individual projects within the program may be qualitative to provide meaning and insight, or quantitative usually to test emerging ideas. So, yeah. And note that because the projects here are independent, it is the results that are combined in multiple methods research, not the data nor the analysis. So that's why later on, probably, although you are in different, you are from the same team, but since the results that you get are from of one team is independent or separate from the other, then probably later on you can just use the results of the other of the other type of research for your literature part. For example, you cite it in your paper, and in that way, and if one of them is published, of course, no, that's also and the other is also published. So, di ba, gina-cite nyo. So, ang inyong citation, am I right? Citation index, kin man na? Correct me if I'm wrong. You are also, ano no? You are also given, di ba, sa Google Scholar,
May ara na, sir.
di ba? Ang citation index, I'm not sure what do you call that term again. Is it citation index or kay di ba kung gina-cite ka,
Do I
kung
think
damo ga cite sa yes sir.
do mo na siyang ano, hindi ko sure do sa dumiyata siya sa number of citations gina-upgrade ni Google Scholar. So,
Yes, and it's one way man kay na ang nami sa multiple methods design kung na-publish tong iban, i-cite mo ang ginobraman sang team mo so para magdamo man ang citations pabala. Tapos it also impacts the prestige of the researchers perhaps or even of the institution. So amo man na siyang nami sa multiple methods design. In my case, hindi ko kabalo mag-Google Scholar. I don't know. But anyway, because the numbers of studies are often more than 2, the researchers often write monographs with the previous studies reprinted from refereed journals so the reader can assess the contribution of each study. So that's why it's if you keep on citing or if you keep on adding existing literature from the studies conducted from the same project or team, so gadugang ang knowledge piling up. And that's why the reader can have a better picture of the contribution of each study, even though they are on the same team, but of course, because of different studies. So, but again, if you are pursuing your dissertation, I suggest no that multiple methods design for the meantime. If you have connections, probably, but usually if you employ multiple methods design and if you are tied up to a certain project, there might be conflicts of interest later on. So be very careful about that because you might claim, for example, that that's your research, but since it's under a certain project, so they can claim, no, they may claim the research to be theirs and not that of a particular individual. And this one involves a lot of money and probably if you wish mixed methods, no, you could use either the explanatory, the exploratory, and that triangulation design if you wish, no? For the meantime lang, Anay. Do we have questions or qualifications, ma'ams, sirs? Is it clear with us?
Okay naman, sir. Sige, sir.
Okay, so I think I have here the question of Sir Jim. Okay, so let's talk about some of the research paradigms. There are so many research paradigms out there on which you could base your research into. However, I will just discuss some of them. So when we speak about paradigms, these are frames of reference we use to organize our observations and our reasoning. No? So like, how do we view the world? How do the variables relate to one another? As of course, based on our observations, reasoning, based on facts or principles out there. Usually, paradigms are often implicit, assumed, or taken for granted. And sometimes the shift requires revolutionary change in view. New paradigms right now, no? So as the world emerges, as the world progresses, new paradigms proposes unique ways of seeing and explaining things that then take hold. Sabi nga nila, nagbabago na yung panahon, panahon na rin daw upang magbago siguro, no? So, for example, there are so many instances like maybe like just like what some of you earlier said, no? We were taught differently, right? We were taught differently as teachers, and sometimes I'm also guilty of this, that we teach our students the way we were taught. But again, the children now also are way too different from the children of the past. And new paradigms emerge that the way we learn or the way the students learn now is way too different than the way we learned before. So there must be new ways of thinking. No? So there must be a shift also in terms of views in conducting research. Okay, let's have your macro theory and micro theory. Would you mind reading this for us, Sir Jess? Or I wait, nagwa siya siguro, no? I think she's not available. Can I have you, Ma'am Leoji, again?
Macro
Yes,
theory
ma'am.
deals Macro theory deals with large aggregate entities of society or even whole societies. Struggle between economic classes, international interrelations among major institutions. Microtheory deals with issues of social life at the level of individuals and small groups, social interactions, collective deliberation, social perception, sense making.
Okay, thank you. So if certain issues or certain things affect people at large, then that's where your macro theory comes in. But if you are only interested on a smaller scale, like how people interact with one another, like the norms in society, for example, the norms that you practice in your barangay or in your school, collective deliberation, the social perceptions, like if you see something, what comes into mind? And how can we make sense of what we see every day? of what people do every day, of what we encounter in our society. So for example, if we speak about macro theory, for example, if we speak about racism, racists, racism. So for example, racism right now is a big issue, not only in America, but also in many parts of the world, no? Racism. Ano pa mga big issues man that was usually encountered by people of across nations, for example, aside from racism? What do you think?
Ang pagka-inclusive, sir, ng education, for example.
Okay, inclusive education, no? It's very much needed. Another thing siguro, no, internationalization. Do damo-damo na subong, no? It's a lot, really. Sir, din ka nga school subong, sir, ah? Are you in a black school or mix sila? Ang imong mga students, sir, are they diverse or dominantly black or what? Sir Jess?
Duwa pa ko si Sir Just kabalik, sir.
Okay. Ay, sorry. Ay, okay. Sige lang, ah. Okay. So siguro, no, kadamo subong sang issue sa aton sa society. For example, another issue probably is ano pa naman? What usually impacts society in general? Um, for example, in the Philippines, perhaps I could say centralization before, right? Many of the things are there in usually in Luzon. So, but right now we are also having decentralization. Let's say some feminist perspectives, and many more. But that's macro theory, large aggregate entities or society or even whole societies. But if you just only are concerned, no, of what you could see in the local setting, for example, social interactions with certain groups of people, let's say, sa isa ka barangay, no? Anong ginobra sa mga tao da? What are the practices they have? That is true probably for them, but not for the general society. Probably that could be under your micro theory. Okay. And also, no, um, I also have some international students before when I was still in private school. Um, that's why it's really good sometimes, no, if you speak with them, because I don't know, for them they find it weird. Honestly, one parent told me they find it weird that you are smiling to them while you are walking. I was like, huh? It's weird for them that you are walking and you are smiling at them at the same time. That's weird for them. And I was like, how come? We Filipinos practice it. And according to them, because she is from France, so she is her son is French, but the mother is French, but the dad is Filipino. And for them in France, if you are smiling while walking, don't do that because that is inappropriate. People think that you're crazy if you do that there. If you wish to smile to people, you should not walk. Just speak if you are speaking with them, but you should not walk while smiling. So something like that, no? So there are some meanings attached to our everyday actions. And sometimes conflict arises if we do not let's say, if we do not put or attach the same meaning with our interactions. Okay, let's talk about positivism. Sir Tirado, would you mind?
Okay, sir. View that science would replace religion or belief and metaphysics by basing knowledge on observation through senses. All social research descends from Compton's view that society could be studied scientifically, coined the term sociology, study of society. Coined the term positivism in contrast to what he regarded as negative elements of his age.
Okay, thank you. So when we speak about positivism, no, it's a belief that science, no, in this case, that science is superior than religion and logic. Also, in positivism, most of the time, no, if you are pursuing quantitative research is actually positivist research because your conclusions, because remember, if you have your research problem, you have your hypothesis, you have your data collection, you have your conclusion, all of them are actually related and interconnected. And that's why quantitative researches are actually most of the time positivist research because the researcher does not insert his or her biases and simply conclude based on what the data says. By the way, Auguste Comte is the father of sociology, if I am not mistaken. And there's a belief, no, that's why in positivism, the researcher should set aside his or her biases, his religion, his logic, metaphysics, particularly no metaphysics, you have your aesthetics, damo na sila, and should not influence you, but simply rely on science. We also have what we call social Darwinism. May I ask you to read, Ma'am? Can I have you, Ma'am Darren?
Influence of Darwin's origin of species, process of evaluation through natural selection. Scholars began to apply Darwin's ideas to changes in the structure of human society. Shift to progressively fitter forms of society. Survival of the Fittest by Herbert Spencer, arguably a misapplication of biological theory.
Okay, so this one, no, is mostly likely on biology, but they could actually extend it. For example, before, correct me if I'm wrong, before, I think the giraffes have short necks. Am I right? Have you heard of that? Giraffes before have shorter necks. But how come the present day giraffes have longer necks? Because maybe someone pulled their necks. Joking. Because there's a theory, no, that they have to reach the leaves, right? They eat leaves of trees, but there is a point that they can no longer reach the leaves of the trees, and so adaptation through body adaptation, physiological or physical adaptations, perhaps they were able to stretch. They tried their best to reach for the trees, for the leaves of the trees, and eat the leaves. Hence, they survived. And in a similar manner as well, probably it might be true for humans. Humans have to continuously evolve, adapting new traits because there are some instances wherein what we have learned or what we do in the past may not be necessarily true or applicable at the present or even in the future. For example, let's sa education. For example, let's talk about digital literacy, or let's talk about the use of computers. What have you noticed? And sorry to say this ha, pero in your opinion, tanawan yung mga older ninyong nga co-teachers or teachers before. Do you think can they adapt to technology change or not? Like, are they proficient in the use of computers? Are they proficient in the use of technologies? What do you think? Maybe, no? Some. But honestly, yes. May I have your thoughts, Sir Tirado?
Okay man, so based on what I can observe, sir, do mas dasig maka
Mas dasig ang mga bataon o kang medyo lapit sa senior?
uh, uh,
So, mga medyo bataon siguro, no? Maybe. What about you, Ma'am Darren? Any thoughts po?
Yeah, so far, those senior citizens I know, not senior, but it's a senior, kung ang mga co-teachers, they can adapt. But may mga may mga operations lang sa computer nga ng maybe because tamara na sila take time lang.
Yeah.
So they would ask na lang other the younger ones to do this
Correct.
and that. Pero maka-adapt sila ng maybe
Yes, yes,
because
I
we're
agree.
using it on a daily basis. So that's why ang adaptation nila is also fast. Pero in terms of inabalang drive to learn nga on their own gid yang isa-isa ho nila amo na gurong nga diminish na
Yeah,
fancy but
I agree with that as well, no? In my observation, so in some of my co-teachers, kung may isa ka ba example lang na kung kaisa kung di siya kabalo, manawag ba na siya? Oo, bisan simple nga problema, bala kaisa simple siya para sa aton, pero kung kaisa bala do ka pudlay na para sa ila. So but again, no, they could actually adapt as long as you give them examples perhaps, no? The same sir, the same thing, no, with our learners or with the structure that we have. Our structure right now is actually shifting. Do you think, however, is it really shifting to become a fitter society? Uh, that's a problem, though. Our society is evolving, but does it really evolve positively, or I don't know? For example, um, you could hear comments like they would say, "This is already 21st century. Dapat we should change our ideals." Yeah. Or let's say, Ma'am Balbi siya nga, ano pang naman usually mabatian taman. Hindi na matuod subong. Dapat gabag-o ka na, baguhan ang thoughts mo. Something like that, no? For example, as what I also mentioned last week, in the US, if you are a man, but if you feel like you're a woman, you're a girl, you can call yourself a woman. Do you agree with that? Mga, I don't, just like nga, di ba, ang abot ko napakita ko sa inyong video last week, there are so many videos like that, no, in leaking sa YouTube. One time sa isa ka store, may isa ka lalaki who feels she is a woman. She dressed like a woman, but all of her body, nothing is changed in his body. He's still a full intact male. But since she believes she is a woman, so that person used the woman's restroom, and he got confronted by the store owner, or let's say the manager perhaps, and saying, "No, you are not a woman." And then he was like, "No, I feel like I am a woman." So the thing is, sino ang gasugid sa matuod sa ila? Do you think, or let's say, di ba there's conflict there? Because that person who claims ka nagamit sang restroom sang girls, that person claims or is also saying that time is changing. It's time also for society to change some of its values. Do you agree with that? What are your thoughts? No? So I don't know. So yes, sir,
highly
Jimmy.
capable.
What are your thoughts? You are
Sir,
recognized? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
sir, batiyon lang ko, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay na.
Sir, okay, sir, I'll try nga, tani ma-okay na akong connection, sir.
Just wait
Speaking
lang, sir.
of that,
I-pause the recording, sir. I'll pause the recording. Okay. For example, if you hear the word group study, in our case, no, when we were in high school, group study, and the teachers would like to say, "Oh, okay. Ayaw kapisan sa mga bata o section 1. Kabo kapisan sila, mag-group study sila kuno." But but they did not know that the term group study means something else. And you know what that means? Okay, sorry to say this, no? Good thing I was not part of their group study. Um, Group study during my time means watching pornography. Yeah. So group study. So you see that symbolic interactionism, meaning that's why even though we have the word group study, it has its own dictionary definition. But the way it is used in a certain context has a different meaning or symbol. That's why we attach a different meaning or symbolism to it, and the thought could be all about negotiation. Example, ma'am, baka nga, example, di ba, kung mag-cheat sila, kung amo ni, meaning, example, sa exam, mag-cheat di siya. Mama niya A, B, C, D. Kung mag-true gani, amo ni. Kung mag-false ka, amo na, di ba? So that's why those are symbols. Those are, you are interacting with them. Let's say through your words, through your body language, and there is attached meaning. Apart from this, how about in our mathematics classrooms? How do people interact? How do people converse? What particular meaning are they attaching to symbols or to the manner you are interacting with them? And that's why sometimes, like cheating, for them, kuno survival. Kuno. Okay, I don't know. Do you know other memes, no? Nga may unusual sila nga mga terminology and then they attach a different meaning. Do you know of that? Someone who's willing to share? Don't worry, this one is not recorded anymore, no, abe? Wala ma-record Or do you know of something or someone? Hindi lang ta mag-mention names. Nga lain ang kung pamatian mo, okay. Pero kung ang may deeper meaning, gali. No? So that's your symbolic interactionism. Or also the way you deal with people. The way we maintain ourselves in society as well. Okay. Yes, Sir Jimmy?
Sir, the word, ano, sir, the words, pero daw ka,
Yes.
so,
Yes, sir. Go
so
ahead.
isa lang sa mga, amo na, dahil nila sa,
Yes.
hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Piyaw
We can
na ba,
hear
sir?
you. Yes, sir. Okay na.
Sir, ang session na ba lang ang word, sir?
What's the word, sir?
Siguro,
Sorry.
session.
Okay. Session.
May,
Yes, yes.
session. Oo, sa aton siguro sa teaching, ma-session ta, ma-meeting. Pero sa iba niya nga mga field or sa something nga daw hindi mayo, lain na ilagi na himo sang session.
Correct.
Amo na sir.
Mga pot
Like sa
session.
drugs na, ba? Oh, okay,
Yes,
sir.
yes. For example also no sa mga frat na bala sa mga frat, 'di ba may mga aras lang ang mga hand gestures nga ila lang, something like that, no? The way they greet, paano mo bala nga ay tao gama na. Okay. Apo na siya. So, something like that, no? They have their own symbolisms and sometimes they that could also be under symbolic interactionism. We also have what we call structural functionalism. It is a social entity such as an organization or a whole society can be viewed as an organism. A social system is made up of parts, each of which contributes to the functioning of the whole. Each serves a purpose. This view looks for the function served by the various components of society. For example, in the school can be considered a society in the sense that you have the principal who has his or her duties, the teachers, the students, no? So each is composed of different parts having their specific functions, and how do each one do their parts to keep the society functioning? We also have what we call feminism. Sir Jesus, would you mind reading?
Okay. Feminism focuses on gender differences and how they relate to social organizations, attend to women's oppression in societies, as well as other kinds of oppression, critique of patriarchal structure, and critique of dominant social order and norms.
Okay, thank you. For example, I'm not sure, sir, no? Let me turn off again let me pause it. Now, for example, like in my case, for example, my study is all about my study is a grounded theory research. So in my case, in coming up with my theory, I have to make sure that those theories are supported by statements or say by other theories or by other authors as well, no? And I have to make sure that those components, the components of my theory are supported by the data that I have. It's not that I made my theory because I want it to look like that. I was able to come up with a theory because data supports such. That's why there should be factors and processes involved in coming up with this. And when we speak about hypotheses, no, so usually these are what we call educated guesses, right? More often than not. And observations are used to test your hypotheses, and particularly these observations could be generated or taken from your data.
Mhm.
So if a certain hypothesis is supported, then probably or not supported, it could either mean that it could be proven or disproven depending on the context. So when hypotheses are not supported, so usually that theory can be classified uh, is considered falsified or less use, or maybe it's not really useful, or probably it's not really significant when it is not supported by data. And the purpose of systematization is that it's designed to yield objective knowledge. Take note, objective knowledge. Because certain knowledge might be applicable only to a certain few, but not to a general public. So that's why different researchers using the same procedures would produce similar results. But apart from similar results, it's also possible that they might have probably contradicting results. Because again, what applies to one might not be applicable to another. But if you have similar conclusions, if you have similar results and you have similar conclusions, then probably that theory can work not only for a small scale, but probably it could work in different contexts, known as
Mhm.
intersubjectivity. So also, if you plan to pursue a what do you call this? This type of research, which is experimental or let's say quasi-experimental, you have or even no, if you wish to pursue say causal comparative studies, you should be able to control the study, or if you cannot control, at least acknowledge in your paper some aspects or some things that you are not able to control. So you should control to make sure that you isolate the cause and effect. That's why control for extraneous factors. When we say extraneous factors, these are factors that you did not consider, perhaps, or are not part of your study, I mean, but could have a potential effect to your results. So make sure that you control them, or let's say you do your best to address them. And of course, you have to remove the biases of the observer, that you really have to be objective and not be influenced by certain external factors. And you have clear conceptual and operational definitions. Take note, your definitions, as much as possible, should be carried out or should be fixed before the actual experiment. Because what others do is that they fix it after the experiment to fit their narrative, to fit in their purpose. But actually, that's not a good research practice. And speaking of knowledge accumulation, um, there are instances that we have to identify, refine, and define and refine concepts. So you have your concrete empirical observations based on your data. And out of what is seemingly concrete, one may need to come up with an abstract, generalizable terms. No? So, for example, you have your social conflict, your social capital or social status. For example, your attitudes, motivations, or say your perceptions. Perhaps, no, out of the data, out of the numbers, perhaps you could come up with something that's general. Like, for example, in general, social status, is significantly related to sex, for example. Okay? Integration also of the concrete and abstract is necessary. Okay? And speaking of scientific evidence, you should gather them under controlled conditions. The evidence is considered tentative. It should be substantial as well. And the evidence describes patterns that are generalizable. However, there are so many critiques about the social sciences, no? Especially if you are studying human behavior, or let's say if your study involves people. So here's some of the critiques, no, according to Frankfurt. The number one, the inappropriateness of mechanistic approaches. So hard science approach adapted to human behavior, because he would say, for example, that people, that we are social beings, we can change anytime from now, time to time. We vary in terms of beliefs or attitudes or characteristics. And it's also possible that humans are not as predictable as molecules, of course, because in the first place, we have our will. No? We have our will, we have our wisdom, we have the capacity to fake responses and to even deceive the researcher. Some important concepts are hard to measure. For example, intelligence, social class, or the class struggle. Even though we can use uncertain arbitrary instrument to measure them, even standardized instruments, even if you use the most sophisticated instrument to measure human, say, variables, no? Let's say intelligence or what, the numbers that you get there is not absolute. For example, di ba? We are familiar of nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio data. So even if his score is 0, it doesn't mean that that person has no intelligence. Or let's say, the fact that numbers can sometimes be manipulated, or let's say the numbers is not truly representative sometimes. For example, also, di ba, kung ga-answer kita sa questionnaire, there are many instances that pinagusto lang kita kasabat, di ba, even without thinking. So that's another thing. It's hard to measure something, especially if your respondents are not giving you the needed data, or let's say they gave you data but incomplete, or let's say they deceived the researcher. And it focuses only on what currently exists and ignore possibilities of what could be. And usually the instrumental nature of knowledge is collected, and knowledge may reinforce rather than critique existing relations of power in society. Okay, do we have questions or clarifications about some of the paradigms that we have discussed? Or anything that you wish to add, or let's say any contention?
Okay. Doc, can I say something, Doc?
Yes, yes, feel free po.
Yes, okay. Okay. Now, I'm gonna share this from a perspective of an HR practitioner. Okay, that's why even if eventually a researcher decides to make a purely quantitative research, he or she could not do away with human consideration.
Exactly.
Because even if the research document is quantitative 100%, there is always the human factor. So in line with this, I'm gonna share 3 things. Okay. Number 1 is there's a Latin saying that I'd like to quote: quid recipitur ad modum recipientis recipitur. A thing received is according to the mode of the receiver. No matter, there's the theory of probability. No matter how much you try to convey a particular message, that message will get through to different audiences but their interpretations, their perceptions, the way they receive the message that you convey will always be different because human factor is in the forerunner. Number two, that I'd like to share, no matter how much, as Doctor mentioned, there is objectivism and subjectivism. No matter how much we try our best to be objective, our character, our values, the kind of person that we are will always reveal in our research document or research output. Our true character will always surface. Third and last principle that I'd like to share is the fact that in all our instruments, it could be survey, FGD, workshops, training, interviews, seminar, blah 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 blah, and the like. The most important factor is the person. In our research journey, we should always take time to show kindness, to show respect, and that is what research ethics is all about. The person is most important. Grades,
Yes.
very important. Intelligence, very important. Results are important. Figures are important. Consistency is important. But the most foundational and the most basic is the person. Our research is not successful if we downplayed the person, because human resources is the most important asset. It is the person who will always dictate. It is the person who will always tell us whether the research is relevant, applicable, upbeat, and abreast to the signs of the times. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for those reflections, sir. So those are also enlightening, no? And that's why no matter sometimes we wanted to be purely objective, there are instances really that our biases would focus. But in quantitative research, which is actually positivistics, more or less, we are trying our best to be objective. And sometimes, even though we are biased to our data, there are instances wherein we have to set aside them and not place them on the paper, especially if our paper is experimental. Okay, but very good thoughts, sir, and I really appreciate all of those. Yes.
Thank you, Doc.
Okay. Let's have the role of theory in research. Okay, this one is just short. Okay. So there are so many theories that we could use, no? And usually the theory that we have is usually placed in the theoretical framework of our study. Now, so what are theories? So when we speak about theories, these are systems of concepts and ideas that provide an explanation of a trend, development, or phenomena. Take note, systems of concepts and ideas. When we speak or talk about systems, it is not only of one concept. It is an array, or it is a list, or let's say you have various concepts or ideas that are most likely interlinked together to come up with a coherent whole that provides a certain, let's say, explanation on how we behave, for example, of an explanation of a trend, the development, or of the phenomena being investigated. So theories have underlying propositions and suppositions arising from their ontological underpinnings. So ontology, no? So this is all about also your related also, no, to logic naton, on how we could, for example, view reality. It's related to reality. Theories provide explanations and rationales or justifications for action. So if we have our theories involved, like what theory could possibly explain how humans behave or on how they could possibly operate in our study. Theories work between tensions and contradictions. So you have, for example, between abstractions and concrete analysis. Like theories are usually abstract, but how do they relate to real life? Are there concrete evidences that support such? You have your macro, your meso, and micro theories involved as well. That's like what we discussed earlier, no? So macro theories, how they work in the general society or that things that encompass society in general. How about in a smaller or a medium-sized society and up to the smallest level, no? Which is your micro level. And in terms of science and ideology, theories also play a big role. For example, in the ideologies earlier, if you have, for example, if we speak about science, if it is truly positivistic, then certain theories would tell you that the researcher should be hands off to the manipulation of data and simply abide with how the data is analyzed in relation to scientific practices. However, if we have our biases, if we are pushing for a certain ideology, for example, feminism, critical theory, for example, discourse analysis. If you are pushing, for example, that there should be a charter change, ano pa? Ano pang gina-push subong? For example, diversity, equity, and inclusion in the US. Let's say those are your ideologies. Then probably you have to make sure that certain theories support the push of such line of thinking or of those ideologies. And theories are also mutable, yet with persistences. What does this mean? It's possible that some theories could change in some aspects. Some aspects of the theory can change. But since time tested again, um, if these theories were tested from time to time by different authors or from different research studies or supported by various data, then probably it would still persist even up in the future. For example, constructivism. Constructivism changes and changes and changes. It evolves, but the major tenets or the major, let's say, the major ideas of, say, constructivism still play an important role, I believe, even for 100 years to come. So in theories, you come up with data, you have your empirical data. You don't make theories without data. Let's say you could gather this data from, say, known principles or science facts. It could also be determined, or it could be based on the data of other researchers. And also, you could also utilize other theories and the values, no, that you have, uh, because theories tend to be both constituted in and constitutive of traditions of theories and against alternate traditions. So your values as a researcher can also play a critical role on how you think, for example, what is important, what is effective, what is beautiful, what is ideal. And if you have the intersection of those three, where data, theory, and values would actually agree, then you provide explanations to them to revise certain theories, to amend values and approaches. And of course, no, so you come up with a relatively newer theory, or probably a refinement or an improvement of the theory of others. So what do theories do? Please read this for us. Sir Tirado, would you mind?
So, what do theories do? So, it provides a basis for classification and distinction. It makes attributions of significance, provides a framework for statements of causality and rational or relationality. That's for planetary power, and have a predictive capacity. Have both normative and analytic elements. Are praxeological, have a relationship to practice, work paradigmatically within and beyond traditions, and that they can be tested by comparison to other theories that's adjacent or opposing, and empirical testing. So more.
Okay.
Charge tayo?
Okay, thank you for that, Sir Jan. So that's why no theories provide explanations. They provide possible relationships of, like, for example, if you have, before even the start of a study, what particular concepts or principles would really
Thank
drive
you.
your
Thank you,
respondents?
madam.
What will be the significance of that theory to the data that you will be gathering, to the research that you will have? And it provides a framework. Sometimes, notice nyo guys, no, mga moms and sirs, sa inyong nga paradigm kung kaisa, there are some instances that if you have independent variable and dependent variable,
Thank you.
there are instances
What's the name?
wherein there are
Okay.
arrowheads
Thank you, guys.
and there are also no arrowheads, no? So in research, in your paradigms, an arrowhead indicates that one variable could possibly influence or affect the other variable. And another one, if there's no arrowhead, so probably they could be related, but not necessarily one affecting the other. So, but again, that paradigm is actually based on theories. Look at what literature is saying. What theories? That's why sometimes of course, when we make our paradigms in quantitative research, we have to ask literature if there, because sometimes no, it would direct us on how would our paradigm would look like. And what's the role of theory in research? Would you mind reading this for us again, Ma'am Darren?
Talikod lang ko, talikod.
Theory engages implicitly or explicitly throughout the research process. Different degrees of impact dependent on your theoretical and value possessions. Research can be heavily or lightly theoretically informed. It is necessary to recognize prior theoretical dispositions or theoretically informed
Presumptions.
presumptions that arise from your research knowledge and experience thus far.
Okay, thank you. That's why these are the different roles of the theory in our research. Usually, no, the theories I agree with, especially with the last one, presumptions. Like even before the start of the study, how do you think will the research uh, come into fruition? What do you expect of your respondents? How will they behave? Um, the relationship, for example, I mean the relationship of the different concepts that you have. Also in research, it's possible that in your theoretical framework, for example, that you could have one theory. If that theory is substantial, okay. Is it okay to have two or more theories in the theoretical framework? Yes, because there are instances wherein if there is no theory in our practice, if there is no theory that really explains your variables, then you could have two or more theories as long as you establish the link in those theories that explains your presumptions in your research. And also, please read the continuation. Sir Tirado, would you mind reading? Sorry. Sir Texon, I mean. Would you mind reading the continuation? Um, okay, so I think no, hindi siya basta sa signal si Sir. Sige. So theory influences your research questions and decisions about the design, and methodology are in part of a consequence of theoretical positions. For example, if your paradigm is positivistic, or if your study is quantitative, do not choose theories that are actually subjective. Okay? Make sure that your theoretical underpinnings are in relation to your paradigm, also in relation to the objectives of your study. Theory influences your research evaluation, which will equally be informed by your theoretical position, and your research stands within the within and out and without your theoretical paradigms. So that's why it would also tell you, for example, if your research is all about symbolic interactionism, or if your theory is related to symbolic interactionism, then probably the reader would actually notice that you will be interacting with them in gathering your data. Or let's say there will be some sort of interaction, and the goal of the researcher is to ascertain things about the interaction. That's why make sure that there is a congruence, no? That they are related and that your theory matches your paradigm, it matches also your research objectives and so on. Okay? And the theory frames and provides interpretive structure, the basis for explanations and arguments, and it has a circular relationship with your research because everything will, many of the things, no, will be related with your theory. And in making or in crafting your theory, or in selection of a certain theory for your research, you can ask, what theoretical traditions have influenced the framing of your research question or problem? What are the main theoretical arguments and disputes in your research area? What has been known? What has been unknown? Are there contradictions? Are there ideas that clash? So, what particular theory would tell you about the clash of ideas? How do you anticipate the theory influencing your research methodology or design? How does theory enable critical thinking in relation to your research? And what implications does this have for your understanding of your research?
Akala ko may lady guard nga.
So these are some of the things that we need to consider as well.
Ito naman, on the way naman.
Okay? Do we have anything that we wish to clarify or to ask about our theory?
Sir, allow me to speak.
Yes po.
Good night.
Sorry, this has nothing to do with your lesson. Dali lang gina. Sir Jess!
Wala.
Please mute your mic.
Yes, Sir Jess. Yeah. Ano ni Mike, Sir Jess, no? Oo. Actually, I could mute everyone. But I think, no, it's also good sometimes if we will be able to share ideas. Yeah, that's why nga wala ako nag-mute sa tanan.
Pinapautang nila.
Sir Jess, hello?
Oh. Hindi yan. Ganda naman po. Ang
Okay.
Tesla? Ang Tesla? Lexus. Right? Okay. Kasi
Okay.
yung
I'll
logo.
pause again.
I made sure that I just put in all the gist, but my PowerPoint presentation is quite long because ang gist ko, bali one gist, one slide. So I have like several slides here in my report. Anyway, I am tasked to deliver to you the documenting your work. This is chapter 4 in the handouts that was given, or in the reference material that was given to us by our teacher, by Sir Kim. Okay. Whatever type of research you do, you will need to keep records of what you do and how, when, where, and why. You may not think that this is important and may even think that you will easily remember everything and you can write it up later. But the truth of the matter is you won't and you cannot. Maybe because of so many reasons. Number one, when you do research, you have like a whole bunch of informations that you have gathered, and of course, pilagid sa aton makahambal nga 8 gig ang aton nga madumduman or aton memory, no? Laban sa aton do mga 2 gigs lang aton nga memory. So we have a hard time remembering things. So it's very important that we have to keep a record of what we have included in our research or in our work or of our work. I'm sorry. So why do we need to document? There are several reasons presented in the article. One is whenever we change perception, it is just but very easy for us to keep track of where we left at, or maybe we will improve something in our write up. So as your research progresses, your perception of what you do and why you're doing it will change. Keeping records helps you track these changes and avoid losing the richness of your original thinking and planning. Demonstrating methodical work. While many researchers focus on substantiating their results, it is equally important to demonstrate that you work in a methodical way. Good records of your research process allow you to explore and explain many hitches or changes that occurred between your plan and the final report. Next is exploring unsuccessful ideas. With good records, even if your original idea or hypothesis is unprovable or disproven, you can still analyze and explain why this might have happened. This can lead to recommendations for different approach in the future. Next is when writing assistance, sorry. Documenting your work from the early stages to completion provides you with a lot of material to start writing your full report. It contributes to various sections, including the introduction, background, context, choice of methods, and discussion of strengths and weaknesses in your study. This notes that I am presenting to you are very concise and very straight to the point. So self-explanatory na gini ang laban ng mga parts or ang laban ng notes diri. And then next is demonstrating research integrity. Clear and accurate record keeping is essential to ensure that your research is taken seriously by your audience. It demonstrates that you have organized and managed your data effectively and that your research has achieved noteworthy results. What is documenting data? When it comes to documenting data, it is important to consider how you handle, organize, and enhance your data. So when we document, we are handling, we are organizing, and we are enhancing our data. Hindi lang na siya siling keeping data lang bali ang concept, hindi lang siya hindi lang siya naga-pertain to document keeping datas lang, but it also entails organizing and enhancing data. And this also includes selecting, collecting, and storing the data, as well as labeling, coding, describing, summarizing, and grouping it. So the purpose of documenting data is to ensure that it is recorded well enough to continue to exist in some form, allowing you to write about or discuss and share the results of your research with others. Now, how do we document? To effectively document your research, it is important to plan and design a record-keeping system that suits your needs and compensates for any personal weaknesses you may have. Now, it is very important that your record keeping will be according to whatever system you have in your with yourself or with your with your how you how you work. Otherwise, if you are going to um, make use of something which is a bit foreign to you, most likely malipatan mo gid siya. Hindi siya magiging system mo bali. So, it is very essential that we have to identify essential information. Now, determine the essential information you need to record for each aspect of your research. For example, if you conduct interviews, or create a form, you need to create a form that includes details such as the date of the interview, names of the interviewee and the interviewer, or the method of interview, contact details, location, purpose, content, agreed actions, and any factors that may have influenced the interviewee's response. When I was doing my project paper, which in LaSalle, ang pagtimpla sa project paper is just like making a thesis paper. I never thought of this detalye in doing my, or in, yes, in doing my research. I was just, I was keeping tab of all the things that I am collecting, but I was not very keen when it comes to the detalye of all these things. When I was reading this, I was like, oh grabe, damo-damo information na dapat gali i-include. The ones I did was like jutay lang to yung information. But those information naman were essential to my study. But this is a very good reminder that indeed we have to keep tab of all this detalye because sometime in the future, who knows, we might be using all this information to further support our work. Okay. Next, we need to catalog your data. Use the information you have identified to create a record-keeping system that catalogs your data. This system can be in any format or media that you can use and access regularly. Consider using software like Evernote or traditional paper and notebook based on your preferences and working methods. Long time ago when I was in college, I had an English teacher. Actually, she was our dean in the College of Ed, who would always ask us to use a 5x8 index card or maybe a 3x5 index card where we will write all the thoughts or all the informations na nag-gather namon. Pero isang una niya, it was long time ago. Kinanglan, you need to go to the library guide and write all your researches or all the researches that you have. So ginapagamit niya 5x8 index card. But now since we're using the computer most of the time, naka-internet kita, so we can always take note of the sites that we visit or even maybe highlight or do something about this data or information that we have, and we can organize it and put them in like isa folder or isa ka notepad where we can find all those references, no, all those links that we might be using as we continue to work on our research paper. Next, we ensure accuracy and completeness. Your records must be accurate, relevant, clear, and as complete as possible. Include details such as the resource such as the source of the data, the content or summary, and the date the record was made. This information will help you assess the reliability of the data for potential use in your research. Depending on the stage or aspect of your study, consider using different methods of recording. This allows you to choose the most natural and effective method for each situation. There are various methods available, such as note-taking, transcriptions, data entry, and more. Consider the long-term storage of your data, especially if it is important for future access by other researchers. Explore options for storing digital data or servers, ensuring data security and accessibility. Additionally, consider the implications of data publication and access on the usefulness of your research and the preservation of confidentiality. Next, there are different methods of recording, and this has something to do with the different stages or aspects of the study as well. First one is we can make use of a diary. Keeping a diary or journal can be a valuable part of your research process, from the first idea to the completion of the write-up, capturing personal thoughts and experiences and providing insights into recurring themes and interest. Sa bilog ko nga paminsaron, parte research ay nagsulod sa ulo ko nga diary or journal is a valuable part of this world. Sa pagbasa ko pa lang sa akong report, kag na-realize ko, ay, may diary keeping, gali nga nagkakatabo sa research process. Next is recording observations. When conducting observational research, it is important to have a method for recording relevant issues related to the research rather than documenting everything that is happening. So, mix of techniques. Note taking should involve a mixture of writing, diagramming, mapping, and drawing. Depending on the research context, recording methods may include maps, diagrams, grids, checklists, tape recordings, and video recordings. With the work that I did, I also had voice recording because it was done online. I have no other choice but to record the interview online. So, and then it's also nice to have tape recordings because when you do transcription, your work becomes precise, and you're able to address all the needed aspects of the work. Pilot studies are recommended to develop a suitable method for recording observations and ensure that the intended data is captured. Researchers should consider the impact of the recording process on the research setting and participants' behavior. Next is structured observation, such as activity sampling, with a strict framework for when and how observations are made and recorded, can be beneficial in certain cases. Researchers can refer to resources like Management Research and Introduction by Mark Esterby Smith and colleagues for more information on structured observation. Next is disciplinary traditions. The choice of recording method should align with the traditions and expectations of the researcher's discipline or related disciplines. Different fields such as anthropology and social sciences have their own approaches to recording observations. Aside from diary, we also have laboratory notes. So laboratory notes are crucial for experimental research requiring very accurate and methodical records to define findings. It is important to establish a consistent method of note keeping from the beginning of the study. Planning is essential, and consulting literature from the relevant discipline can provide helpful insights into how others have kept records in similar research. The records must be clearly written and understandable by others, as they might need to be inspected for verification. When conducting interviews or focus groups, relying solely on note-taking may result in a summary or analysis of what was said, rather than capturing verbatim quotes. People speak faster than researchers can write, making it difficult to record everything accurately. I'm so sorry, the dogs are so noisy. Okay, so next, recording voices. Okay. Oh my lord. Audio recording is a common and effective way to capture what was actually said during interviews or group discussions. However, using a visible voice recorder may inhibit conversation or raise confidentiality concerns. So researchers should consider ethical issues and the potential impact of covert recording methods. I remember Dr. Inares telling me you have to inform your respondents that you are recording the interview. And she would always tell me that keep on, or do not forget, you have to inform your respondents that you are informing or you are recording the interview. Considerations and techniques. Researchers should explain the purpose of recording and how the data will be used to participants. Careful planning and choosing the right recording device, labeling recordings with date and time, and considering the use of voice activated equipment are important factors. Researchers may also consider using personal voice recorders to document their research process. Next is another way of collecting data is using card index. Despite being considered old-fashioned, card indices offer portability and flexibility, allowing researchers to make instant records that can be filed and arranged later. They can be particularly useful for recording sources in a literature search or noting key notes or key quotes, providing a helpful organizational tool for writing literature reviews and compiling bibliographies. Next is computer database. The article mentions that the main advantage of index over a computer database used to be its portability. However, with the availability of laptop computers, this gap has been failed. Laptops offer the convenience of portability, allowing researchers to access and use software specifically designed to assist them at various stages of research. The article suggests using bibliographic packages like ProCite, Reference Manager, EndNote Plus, Papyrus, and Bib Search to link stages of the literature review, similar to a manual card index system. These software tools help researchers record full references, including publication details and relevant page numbers for books, journal articles, and web pages. Additionally, using databases like EndNote or Mendeley can assist in keeping a searchable record of web sources. The next one is mapping and making diagram. The article emphasizes the use of maps and diagrams as visual representations to describe and record complex ideas. Maps can be particularly useful when there is no obvious sequence or priority, allowing for nonlinear connections between ideas. The article introduces mind mapping as an effective approach for developing detailed thoughts around a central theme. It involves writing the theme in a central bubble and drawing branches to represent related thoughts. Mind mapping is useful for generating ideas, planning chapters of writing, and making quick records of events or thoughts. Now, the article mentioned also other mapping techniques such as conventional mapping for recording locations or changes over time, and cognitive mapping for group work and strategy development. It suggests using flow diagrams, Venn diagrams, multiple cost diagrams, fishbone diagrams, and force field diagrams to save words and explanations. Next, we have drawing. Drawing is a traditional approach used by archaeologists, paleontologists, and other researchers to record objects and visualize complex ideas. Drawings provide a clear and precise way to accurately represent an area or object, giving researchers more control than photographs alone. They can be used to capture the details of an excavation site or to visually represent research progress and personal perceptions. Drawing can be used as a projective technique to explore and express one's thoughts and feelings about their research. By creating a drawing that represents the research journey, individuals can engage in discussions about their chosen images and what they symbolize in terms of research progress. This drawing serves as an initial stimulus for discussion and becomes part of the record keeping process. Next is drawing can be used to create a rich picture that captures the complexity of a situation, including groups, individual connections, conflicts, and more. This technique, often used in group work, allows for comprehensive representation of the situation and serves as a basis for subsequent planning and analysis. It can be a valuable tool for identifying problem areas and understanding complex systems. But there is a, particularly sa Lasal, I haven't seen this process or this method being used by researchers here. Usually, dulag gid sang may naga-draw sang ilang work.
Um, about drawing, ma'am.
Yes, so
In my
maybe.
case, depende man siya sa study actually, no? In my case, I pursued a grounded theory study.
Mm-hmm,
And for me to determine, for me to see the interrelationship of my data, I draw diagrams. I draw like circles and then arrows. For me, initially, no, to come up with uh with a model. So it depends man sa study nga type. So in my case, since I am my output is a theory, so I really have to draw some images first to conceptualize everything. But of course, that's an initial drawing and it was supported by data.
oh,
So in my case, I'm nag-scribble no, kasi also nag-draw. I draw circles, variables, arrowheads. So it's all about relationship. But in your case, maybe it depends man.
oh,
In your case, no, you were not able to see one. But if you are into studies that
mm,
you would like to look into the relationship of your variables, probably you could, like example, path analysis. No, you need to draw.
okay.
Are you familiar, mga moms and sirs? Are we familiar with path analysis?
I have seen some work na may path analysis.
So yeah, so Tercer Tirado is familiar. So in path analysis, no, so some variables are affecting other variables. So it's a beautiful drawing sometimes, no. So you have the relationship of your variables. So maybe you need also to draw them. But of course, this is based partially sa literature, no.
Mm.
Okay, ma'am, go on.
And that gives and that spike up the curiosity because I have a colleague also who did grounded theory on linguistic something. So let me ask her kung anong drawing niya sa iyang work. But
Oo.
she would
Kaya usually ang drawing mo sa do scribble-scribble mo na eh, unless
oh,
nga ma-finalize mo na siya sa Word siguro or di mo siya gindraw. Depends.
yeah.
But in my case before, nag-draw ako sa man paper gid eh. Kag para hindi ko madula ang bako tapos pinicturean ko dayon. That's my initial plan.
Mm-hmm.
Para at least hindi siya madula pala. Yung save ko yan sa messenger. Yeah. So it's a matter of ano, as depende mas sa style natin.
Oo. At the same time, kind gid nga research, ano?
Mm.
So, okay, to continue, now we have photographs in record keeping. O, tiginubra na ni Sir kay para hindi madulang iya drawing. Photographs can be a valuable tool in research when visual records effectively communicate the subject matter. Researchers should consider the subjective choices made by the recording photographer, such as the viewpoint, span of view, and selectivity when deciding how and when to use photographs. So, when taking photographs to support research, it is important to record essential details such as the date, time, location, subject, and the reason for taking the photograph. This information helps in properly documenting and referencing the photographs. Additionally, researchers should link the photographs to their text when using them in research write-ups. Okay. This is another way of collecting data by the use of memoranda and correspondence. When conducting research, it is important to keep track of all related notes, phone calls, emails, letters, and other forms of correspondence. Even seemingly trivial things like scraps of paper with notes and phone numbers can be useful later on. It is easy to overlook the importance of email messages as part of research records, and it is recommended to develop a system for filing and organizing email correspondence similar to how paper records are filed. Next is storage and retrieval. It is crucial to have an organized system for storing and retrieving records to ensure easy access when needed. Simple throwing everything into a cardboard box may preserve the material, but it can make the task of retrieval daunting and time-consuming. Imagine ako magdamo ng ang imo nga na-store kag yun pang dasok mo lang to without properly labeling or maybe putting tags at the side so that you can easily access them. So, yawan ka pangita sa imo kinanglanon. Consider different storage methods such as date, order, topics, themes, labeled envelopes, transparent envelopes in ring files, labeled boxes, card files, or computer files, depending on the material and personal preferences. Having a well organized system can prevent the frustration of having to retrace steps to find specific references or information. So, in conclusion, however you want to do your documentation, you just have to make copies. Kay para may backup ka kung madulang iban or may share ka sa iban pag who will be working on the same topic that you're working on. So, next is digital documentation. It is important to make copies of your digital documentation to ensure that you have backup version in case of loss or damage. Keep 3 copies regularly, one locally, one on an external drive, and one in a different physical location to protect against disasters. Label each version of your documentation to avoid confusion when you have multiple copies. Organizing and managing your record keeping with good practice will instill confidence in readers regarding the reliability of your research. And that's all, sir. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, thank you, Ma'am Darren. That was a very long, no, but it's a very comprehensive one. So it so
And
happened as well that the topic assigned to Ma'am Darren was a bit long. So,
oh,
but that is actually very good, no. So make sure, for example, also, no, if you will be making the example, gina-revise mo din mo dissertation. What I do is I also adapt the other what others do. For example, um, research manuscript as of January 1. And then pag-revise mo naman pag next day, research manuscript as of January 2. Because for example, there are instances nga need mo siya balikan. Ang example, no, may gin-delete ka be, may gin-pa-delete ang panel. Tapos na-realize mo, ay, dapat ibalik gali. At least may balikan ka pa to, no? So, it's very important to keep multiple copies. It's okay if they're multiple, as long as, for example, you sort them out by date, let's say you document the improvement, because kung kaisa, need mo ba balikan, no? And it's also good that ma'am was able to discuss comprehensively um, the different ways to store data, what kind of data, and of course, how to manage your data. So thank you, Ma'am Darren. Okay,
yes,
that's the job
sir.
well done.
Thank
And
you.
who is the reporter for number 5, please?
Good
Sir
morning,
Texon, are
sir.
you in charge? Okay. Ma'am
Yes,
Darren,
sir.
please
Pati
make
on
Sir
ako, sir.
Jimmy the host. Yes po.
Sir, I am asking Ma'am Luigi to share
Okay.
screen because I have sent the presentation
Okay.
to her kaya daw hindi ginamit ako signal, sir.
Ate, sige. Please make Ma'am Leo G, the host, Ma'am Darren.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Uh, make host. Oh, there.
Lihog lang ko da, ma'am, ha? Thanks, good.
Okay na, sir. I think host na si Ma'am Luigi.
Okay. Yes,
Leo
yes.
G.
Leo G, yes. Okay. We can see your presentation, and I think you may now
Excellent.
begin, sir.
Sige, good morning once again, everyone. Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am. So the topic that I am assigned with is the topic of plagiarism by Tony Greenfield. So we have the definition of plagiarism. What is plagiarism, GDI? Next slide, please.
Okay.
Okay, according to the different sources, plagiarism is the theft of ideas and texts from other people's work. In other source, it means taking credit for someone else's words or ideas, either on purpose or accidentally through failure to cite sources. So, in a while, we will be given or presented with different samples or examples of plagiarism. It is also the word, a Latin word, kidnapper. It came from the Latin word kidnapper. So, this one actually shocked me no nga ang plagiarism di ay kay kidnapper di ay siya sa kung i-translate ta into Latin word, and it is considered a breach of honesty in the academic community. So this one, no, the reason why we have these plagiarism cases is through gid sa because of the academic community nga concern man sa mga original work nga need gid i-cite kay hindi bala hindi basta-basta nga mahimo sa imo tapos kopyahon lang sa iban without even giving credit to the real owner. So without further ado, let me give you the examples on plagiarism. So ano gid bala ang mga makonsider ta nga plagiarism? Okay, the first one is stealing from a colleague. So the common sa ato na especially if we have, for example, may mga we have hectic schedules. Excuse me, batiwan lang ko sir.
Yes po. Yes, yes. Go
Sige
ahead.
sir, thank you sir. Kaya hindi ko confidence sa akong signal. Sige. First one is stealing from a colleague, no. Sa hectic schedules ta usually gapadali na gusto ta rush tapos tungod kay we can't manage our time gusto ta daw easy na lang. Tapos manguha na lang ta something sa iban or sa aton upod. So borrowing our colleagues' work and copying a chunk of text from it, hand it to our professor, to our principal, then with a sigh of relief ko nga, ay, natapos ang gid ko. Then if the principal or shall we say the professor can recognize it, then that would be plagiarism pod. So kay hindi na imo idea, kopya mo na just to mapadali lang ang imo trabaho and that is not actually your original work. Paano siya ma-detect? Siguro imo professor will detect who is the originator and who is the plagiarist. So, kung sa din ginahalin kag sino lang ang ga-copy sila. So usually sa amo sa mga students if we are going to apply this one to our students kung sino ang gapangupya lang kag sino gid ang may tuod nga answer, especially we will be shocked if those students nga daw hindi siya maayo in his writing tapos nakatapos siya nga daw nami-nami kay ginkopya gali sa iya tapad. So usually gakatabo na knowing nga ang iya tapad is bansay you know him nga he knows how to write something like an opinion about a certain topic, then this one, you will be shocked nga, ay, nakahimo siya amo na. That to prejudge, but daw, as a teacher, you can really say your students, kasi sino ga-perform gid maayo. So daw, diha mo makita as a teacher. Next to that is this one, collusion. The next one is collusion. That is actually the secret or illegal cooperation, especially in order to cheat or deceive others. Now, collusion is sabuatan. So collusion can be as bad as copying down. If you and another student work together, but you then present the work as if it is only yours, then you have stolen credit. So nakipagsabuatan ka nga, gamiton nimo na or you're going to use those texts or those parts sa iya ginobra, then mahambal ka sa iya nga it's okay lang, then you try say for example mahambal ka nga uh, allow me to use this one tapos hindi man pud gali iya. So nakipagsabuatan ka sa isa man ka source yung individually original source man. So that is one. So secret or illegal cooperation with someone else, especially if our purpose is really to cheat or to deceive others. Next to that is the very common also we have stealing from published papers and books. So I love the part here in the PDF in which it says that even if you are not caught down that you are stealing from a published papers, you will live the lie until you die because you try to own those. So the very common is okay, especially if we go to Google Scholar, if we go to different sites in which we will just copy and paste. So it is so easy now working at our computer, of course, to copy from existing publications and just paste it without even paraphrasing. So daw ka-common ni siya nagkatabo. Say for example, you will just copy the methods, the results, and discussion, then ay ka-original nga data. So the next one about examples of plagiarism is quoting without citation. So quoting without citation, some students may claim that it is in their culture to copy original text from a well-known publication without citation. Especially sa kanang mga, siguro sa mga sayings bitaw, sa mga quotations, nga you will say nga amo na quotation nga gusto mo tapos without even recognizing kung sino gid ang original nga author sa mga quotations like yung mga Albert Einstein nga mga quotations something like that. So one way kuno to according to the text that I have read, beware too of copying from websites. Okay? Much information cannot be trusted, especially sa Wikipedia nga mga references or sa source sa Wikipedia. Kaya nga ang Wikipedia is not a reference and even and anybody can change it. Sa Wikipedia pwede na ay na nakalock. So pwede lang kita mismo maka-edit sila. So meaning speaking of the references or sources, you should go to sources that are, of course, reliable and legit, man. The next one is buying it. So buying it. I've heard, I didn't confirm naman, but I heard a lot of my kakilala when doing thesis writing that they were just paying like 40,000 to have a full-blown thesis, then they will just be defending it. I don't know if that is true, but sa on my end, ay manggid ko kaamo na nga nagbayad ko sa amo ng amount just to have my full-blown nga thesis daw galibog gid ko or shall we say ginapalibugan gid I take it over kung ano gid ang mahimo like ikaw gid ang mahimo sa mga parts ng research na nga waay gid ka pahimo sa iban. So some will just pay. So according to this one, a new form of plagiarism arrived with the personal computer and the internet. There are many easy writing and even thesis writing services on the web. Sa ara gani sa Facebook tungod kay syempre ang our topic talk about research then may related searches in Google and in Facebook maybe naka-sync tapos may ara na magwa sa Facebook mo nga mga newsfeed about those uh, pages that offers thesis writing or easy writing nga sila daw ang mahimo and you will just pay a certain amount. So sa ina nga pagid daw kahapos-hapos na lang. So don't kid yourself that you can pay and get away with it. Your university is well aware of these services and will catch you even if you have used them. So Google also is now aware that plagiarism is threatening the integrity of universities degrees and will therefore ban any advertisements for easy writing services. Pero daw may ari gini Japon. Kung ako sa ako newsfeed ang damo kay ga-search ko abi kung sino makabulig sa akon about my thesis. Tapos may ara gigagwa sa akon mga newsfeed nga. Daw damo nga mga page nga offer sila easy writing, thesis writing, tapos may mga certain amount corresponding certain amount na kung doctorate, dissertation, amo ni ang amount for their help, something like that. So buying it. The next one is data recycling. Data recycling, we have a postgraduate student collects some data over several years and writes and publishes a thesis and some associated papers. So data recycling may fall sa ano siguro. Say for example, uh, you have a study or you have a paper just a long time ago, then you have another paper or so which is study, then you are just recycling those data. So meaning hindi na siya updated. So you're just recycling to the point nga daw ay ka naguro ka study or ay ka na conduct survey, then you are just data recycling. You are just recycling your data sa purpose siguro nga daw pares-parehas lang but of course in your local or your scope and limitation of your study maybe it says there that it is 2024 and that one so there are factors that could affect sa data sa imo so it need mo gid nga makandak sa new nga mga studies or surveys para sa imo new nga data not just to recycle the data. The next one, the last one for plagiarism is self-plagiarism. I was actually amazed with this one. This is the first time that I've heard this. self-plagiarism in which we can be of self-plagiarism daw makasuhan man ta sa amo ni kun ang aton mga works daw before nga ginakapasa na is ginliwat ta lang. So self-plagiarism daw naunay ta. So daw waay ta gin paraphrase ang words or I mean ang work ta sang una nga na-submit na. Daw ginliwat ta submit man. Maybe a part of it nga gin change siya pero the most sa iya guro gin plagiarize ta nga aton man ta ni obra. So basically ang matabo siguro you have to of course paraphrase meaning to give another data considering that there is also a factor like a time. Kalain naman na siya nga mga issues siguro if you are talking about research lahi naman na siya ang mga opinion sa mga tao nga ginkandakan mo sa una and sa respondents nga ginkandakan mo subong. So next one is stopping plagiarism. How do we stop plagiarism diyan? So how to stop plagiarism? We have enumerated two uh, steps in stopping plagiarism, and this is deterrence and detection. Deterrence. What is meant by deterrence? Sa Tagalog, kuno ginapigilan kuno nimo. How do we prevent people or researchers or students to plagiarize? So before that, what is deterrence? Deterrence is the act of discouraging an action or intention to plagiarize. How do we discourage them? How do we prevent students to plagiarize? So we can prevent students or anyone to plagiarize by informing them the penalties that they may have, the consequences that they may have if they do plagiarism. So ang deterrence, you are going to discourage them of doing plagiarism by letting them informed and be educated on the different consequences that this plagiarism may cause to them. So amo nang deterrence. So imo sila ang bala niya kung mag-plagiarize ka, amo niya matabo sa imo, basi hindi ka makagraduate, basi makasuhan ka sa amo ni, something like that. So you are going to discourage them of doing and that by discouraging them, you are also informing them of the possible consequences, mga do's and don'ts in writing and in talking about plagiarism. The next one is detection. So under detection, one way to stop plagiarism is of course detection. So that's why in schools, we have Turnitin check, plagiarism checker. Ano ang purpose ng professor nga amo na? So that before publishing it, before pa na siya ma-publish, any form of plagiarism will be detected. So hindi na siya maanhan plagiarism, it's because na-detect siya beforehand. So there are actually many ways no to detect plagiarism that will be commonly sa Lasal sa during our masters we have the Turnitin check. So during my time first ko nga Turnitin check is 27%. So daw hinaig ko sa mga paraphrasing daw amo na. Tapos the second time around is I of course paraphrase, I ask help from a grammarian. Tapos in that way you know that isa man sa weakness ko ang about sa grammar. Pero I really tried myself nga makuha ang technique in paraphrasing and rephrasing. So I love the point nga during the second Turnitin check, it was I think 11% the and I passed that percentage na nga dapat 15% below ang percentage nga magwa sa Turnitin check. So amo na ang mga percentage nga na-copy mo or nag-related sa ibang nga mga work or na-plagiarize mo kumbaga. So in conclusion, plagiarism has been with us daw since writing began. Okay? Universities are concerned. Same with the honest student like us, Cheng, who wants to protect our own work. Okay? There are also modern technologies that has brought new ways to plagiarize. May damo man good mga sources, so pwede lang ta maka-copy-paste. Very easy na lang sa mga different search engines. But it has also brought new ways to protect against plagiarism and new ways to detect it. So do you have any other ways to stop plagiarism? You may share it to us now. Sorry, that's all, sir, and thank you for listening and bearing with me kay daw naano na niya akong
Ah,
signal. Nice, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Ma'am Darren has something to say. Ma'am Darren, you are recognized.
Oh yes, sir. Sorry. Nang this is something to do with paying somebody to do your research. Nang I had an experience before na I sat as one of the actually recent lang yung na ako na experience that I sat as one of the panel members in the research nga ano ni defense.
Mhm.
And obvious gid you said they paid a certain person to write the ano ni to write the paper, and sad to
Which
say
part of the paper did they write, ma'am?
bilog gid ya sir Kim, as in bilog nga paper
Aba,
from start to the very finish.
okay lang siguro kung nag-ask siya help sa chapter 4 kag 5, no, in some aspects, pero kung bilog, wow.
Di daw kaano, grabe gid ya kay tulukay kami na tatlo sang panel members because ang structures ng paper parehos gid ya, Sir Kim, even ang mga ginapang quote nila nga mga references bala ng the same magadugin shuffle lang gid ya from one ano ni from one student to another student, gin-isdog-isdog lang ang mga parts sa introduction, gin-isdog-isdog lang ang parts sa mga review of related literature,
Oh
but the
my.
entire research paper was similar sa 5 ka estudyante. Ang all
Wow.
5 works were similar. And then sa Japa kay when the defense was done, ining 5 ka estudyante, pasunod man sila Sir Kim nga nag-defense.
Defend.
It's like, oh, nag-defense. It's just like, kay ang ano to, ang ginaistoryan to was, sige, isa sila ka advisor. So, dunganon, isa na lang ka slot bali. And one
Mm.
after, although it was done one after the other. But when you sit as a panel member and you have this first presenter, second presenter, makita mo na ginayang pattern niya kung pagka third presenter, paglantaw mo sa paper, parehas gyapon because it came from Sir Kim as in, and sadly, all these 5 were not able to make it as in na-fail sila. So they have to retake the entire ano ni research.
So in this case, ma'am, do wala sila ka-graduate, do mo na.
Wala sila kagay. Gin-retake lang nila and they did it again and they
Ano, ma'am,
learned.
is it sa isa ka course or is it their final output sa masters nila or what?
It's a final output sila masters.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
so that one, no, so that's really suspicious. Siguro, mas maayo pa siguro, no, kung kani kung obvious na gid ya, eh.
it's obvious it
Ahay.
was like it was really an issue bala sa ano ni sa graduate school
Mm.
actually.
It's all
It was
about academic integrity.
yeah, so yes, so amo na ako and nasubuan ko Sir Kim kay like there's this one ano ni researcher, one student nagbaligya siya baboy para ibayad sa obra sang
Hmm.
and sad to say ini siya
Ahay.
baboy nagbaligya and all that wala siya kapasar. Kasubo bala Sir Kim, it's not barato because they were asked to
Yes.
pay more than 20,000 pesos, 20,000 and above, just to pay for all these papers nga ginpang obra, and all
Mm.
these papers were done in a putyo-putyo way. Plus nakita
Oh
ko dito
my.
so kasad nga klase experience.
Oo,
And
managpan gid sila.
ang sadly sa 5 ni ka estudyante, they learned the hard way. So nag-waste sila money
Mm.
sila nga try. But
Exactly.
the second try, they were saying, amo man lang nagli mag-braso. And, they realized it.
Yes, yes.
They were able to pay thousands of money na for the work. That's
Yeah.
it.
Because ako yung may kilala akong ano, sa chapter 4 kag 5 lang siya nag-help. But at least ang 1, 2 kag 3 bala may input gid ang researcher. Because ang law ay is kung wala gid input ang bata or ang student, then that's a very bad thing.
Mabalaan, kaya kay once ang panel members mag-start na asking questions about the work, ay, galanga-langa gid siya defense niya
And
paper.
especially kung wala na siya o why siya ihibalo, hindi siya nagubra, why siya ihibalo. That's a bad sign.
Yes, truly.
Okay.
And another thing I want to share is all about example of self plagiarism bala. I'm sorry, I had a good interaction with Doc Leonares. That's why I kept on citing her about all these things. She was self-plagiarized. She plagiarized herself
Oo,
because
ano ma'am?
ang iya paper was presented in a conference, and ang conference, I think, published the paper she presented. And
Mhm.
then may another naman nga opportunity siya nga mag-present again, and tinatag niya yourself na self-plagiarize siya because of that presentation. But may isa ka conference siyang ginatinan, nga gin-present niya yung paper, and then ang conference published the paper sa ila website or something, and then
Mhm.
si Dr. Lars had another opportunity of I don't know, presenting again the paper or publishing the paper online, nga hindi nga gintag siya nga na plagiarize siya paper. Paglantaw niya sa plagiarism, iya man ngalan ang iya nga nakita nga na
Hmm,
plagiarism.
okay.
This is an
So we have
example
to be careful lang gid, no? Mhm.
of plagiarism. Yes. That's all.
Sige lang. Thank you, ma'am, for your thoughts. Okay, so that's why, we have to be very careful because in our case, no, so plagiarism is like a mortal sin in the academia. Okay, thank you. Let's have the next one. Who's the next one, gani? Ma'am, is it you, Sir Tirado? Am I right?
Sir, ako, sir. Yes.
Sige, sige. I'll make you the host, sir. Wait lang. Okay, there. Okay, we could see your screen. You may now begin, sir, if you're ready. Sir Tirado, you may now begin. You are muted, sir, ha? Please open your microphone po. Thank you.
Ay, sige, sir. Sige. Thank you. For this chapter, so we'll be talking about information and library services, and this is more on finding our references, finding literature, or where can we get information that can basically help us in from the very start, looking for literature and trying to build up theories. And first is we, of course, it is a skill, no? That we have to develop, and nowadays it is much more easier kumpara sa mga siguro back in even some my college years lang, although the internet was already present, um, but it is not as extensive as what we have today now. So first and foremost, good is what are we looking for? So we have to be very specific. We have a chosen topic for our research, for example, and we have to think of our keywords. That means if we're trying to find studies, related studies, so what are very good keywords that we can use, which would give us results for our studies. Kay, di ba, for example, lang kita mag-search ta sa Google. If you research some topics in Google, it would provide us a vast results. So for, di ba, ang return ni Google kisa is hundreds of thousands results na siya into different pages. But if we would like to sort it out, so we have to provide not just a few set of words, but rather a set of keywords with our search. That is using online. Now, next is we have to be familiar with search operators, and that is usually the words and or and not and that is just logic, right? And these are just basically simple words, but very relevant actually. It's because we can, these would help us trim down our results into the specific studies na ginapangitan or specific topics. For example, we search for women and workplace. So yes, it's a bit too broad. It's because when I say women, I think women has no problem. But when it comes to workplace, because nowadays may kita if workplace yung gina-refer ta, for example, is an office work, a field work, but not sa home. Kaya may naman ta o work from home. So you can actually trim this down in searching, for example, women and work or workplace or office or factory, not home. So basically, at least a trim down time results, and the database will provide us something topics which would include only everything except those who are working from home. And if you might see, ang woman is may question mark instead of an A, because some search database actually gina-refer nila as I believe, as a wild card. That means it could give you different results, but very relevant results instead of using the actual letters. I'm not really sure how this actually works, no? But I've observed nga ang iban tuod ang mga ginagamit nila sa ila database, not actually using the letters, but using either annotations or symbols to trim down the search. Now, we of course, in addition to thinking about the keywords you use, you also need to ask other questions. For example, currency, not the currency ng kwalta, but how, di ba sa research, we need to have at least 5 years, no? You know, pinaka-recent ng references as much as possible. Now, although there would be cases nga, especially in mathematics, if you're focusing on the content itself, it doesn't change that much over time. Now is next is nationality. So by the way, so currency, how up to date does the information need to be? So does it have to be within 5 years? I think for there are those nga sa undergrad, the okay stuff for 10 years, the past 10 years. So if you are a scientist, the sources you access will need to be very current, right? Especially if you're doing clinical trials or clinical studies. But for us in the field of social sciences, education, no, this may not be as important. Now, nationality, on the other hand, is we sometimes have or oftentimes I think we have to provide local studies as well as international studies, and sometimes we have to specify kung diin nga country of origin. So, for example, what's the closest when it comes to education? I think we can actually gauge ourselves with our neighbors, Southeast Asia. We can look for specific studies in specific countries, para we can get a vast reference or literature for that. Next is we have language. I think there's no problem with, because we, as a standard sa Philippines, gagamit dito English for the research, but not always. But oftentimes our papers will be published in the English language. But the problem though is that papers, now ang mga published papers are in English na. By the way, before ko mag-continue, bation ko, sorry.
Yes, yes. You are heard, sir. You're audible.
Thank you. Kaya reklamong computer ko ngayon, hindi na may
Loud
internet.
loud and clear, sir.
Okay man, sir. Clear man siya, sir.
Thank you. And lastly, peer review. So we have to think about what we want to exclude from our search or from the results that we will get from database. And especially information sources will allow you to refine ang atong mga searches by the criterions provided. And one is that oftentimes it is best to have peer-reviewed nga mga journals or references ang ating Now, Sige. Sa library, libraries nowadays, no, we have what we call ang online public access catalogs, wherein you don't have to be at the library to search for specific books, or at least identify kung ang imong library, ang university niyo or ang college niyo has that specific book. You can go online and check the catalogs. Now, as a student, as a faculty, or at least as an employee of that institution, they should be providing you access to the catalogs. And not just the catalogs providing you idea ng may amo ng libro, but sometimes or oftentimes, may mga PDF copies one of those books, which would be very useful again. Now, those books might be in terms of textbooks. So as a faculty, mo ginang concern natin because we use that as a reference as well para ma-use mo ng students ng library and the books in the library. But not only that, libraries would usually provide as well our theses, yung mga outputs, especially the best ones or what they considered as the best thesis for that batch, and as well as dissertations. And I think that sa grad school sa Lasal is they do have a copy for the college library, or I think sa grad school they do provide or they do keep copies of their products, especially sa thesis and dissertations. I think I've experienced once. I think they give access sa they give access to not just students and currently enrolled students, but as well as ang mga alumnos. Because I recall, I think nagbuli ko sa wife ko sa una when she was writing her thesis, and she's a product of LaSalle. And you can ask for permission as a former student to use the textbooks as references. But I think there is a part here later on that discusses that connection. Now, discovery system. So these are basically options that will allow you to that shows you random options, but not just random options because diba our data or not data, our devices, especially mga browser or any apps, they collect data, especially kung ano ang ginapang search nimo. Especially if you're looking at journals. Now, oftentimes, the next time you open your browser, it has suggestions. And those suggestions would be usually based on your recent searches. So when recently you were going into searching for references, searching for studies. These discovery systems will actually be able to identify your data, and the next time you open it, yung imo browser, for example, makahatag sila suggestions. And but I'm not just saying these are just from browsers, but these are actually either add-ins or plugins or actual applications itself. And this can lead you or direct you actually to journals, online journals, which would most likely have the papers or references you're looking for. And the database, these are one of which are the journals. No? Ang Google Scholar, PubMed, ResearchGate. No? So ako is ano ko sa ResearchGate. I'm one of those if I'm looking for details or even just asking questions. So ResearchGate, di ba I'm not sure if I think nakita naman na siguro there is a part in ResearchGate wherein you can make conversations. Lang ma-post ka question and then several scholars or persons or researchers would reply. Na-try nyo na siya.
Yeah.
I saw that, Sir John. I saw that and I was able to read reactions about particular questions, but I never tried it myself. Nga ako ginag-post questions
Yeah.
and were answering me.
But mostly read man ako na I only made reactions lang man quite a few or but lang ko na publish ko tong reaction ko, but very useful, especially if there are parts of statistics being, for example, or may reference kung ginapangita or I do have similar questions. Kakakita ko na siya pero may sa search results ko sa Google, and it's a good reference, no? Or not necessarily a reference, but oftentimes ang mga ga-reply sa imo may ginahatag silang reference to supplement their response sa imong questions. And it's very good. And these are examples of databases. No? Ang Google Scholar, way ko gamit Google Scholar. I'm not that well in trimming down results back in Google Scholar. But what I do is, recently, ang ginagamit ko is ang ChatGPT. But what I'm asking is, if I'm looking for a certain topic, I'm asking for the reference itself. Kung i-compare ko siya sa Google lang mas narrow ang pag-trim down ni ChatGPT sa mga references. So that's one good thing. But if we would like to have directly and be more specific, because specific journals had their specializations, fine. So you can look for the journals themselves. For example, under mathematics or science journals, we can search their database. It would be very helpful to trim down which is ang atong search results. Now, our core reading will be journal articles, conference papers, thesis, and research and dissertation reports. And well, that is very true. Kaya mo ginasa is ang primary resources. It's gonna be all about reading articles. So it would take a lot of time, and actually, while I was trying to come up with this report, nagka-realize ko nga I'm not sure if 1 year would be enough, no? Or a semester would be enough to gather enough information para construct some theory, or at least have enough resources, no, to supplement your theory. But siguro we have to read and read again. Now, and of course, not just read, but we have to basically read the right items, read the right resources or references. So that's why it is a skill in finding out, or trying to look for references. So sources, one thing is, I think ang gina-cite din ni Greenfield is, or I think my co-author is doing a chapter, is that the terminology would matter. It's because ang terminology, for example, if you're using a database which is British, a database, it would vary when it comes to terms. Kung i-compare mo siya sa American database. So it would be, you would have to identify the keywords, or at least look for that keywords matter to which specific database ka nga. And most importantly, you try to keep notes. So for example, you're looking for, let's say sa ResearchGate or Google Scholar, you had success using a certain terminology or a certain phrase or group of terminologies nga ginagamit mo, and the results you have are usually what you're looking for. So you have to keep notes. You have to remember those terms na ginagamit mo, or those phrases or word construction na ginagamit mo, so that the next time you search, you would remember, okay, in this specific journal or database, I have success in this phrase, in this phrasing of the sentence, or using these such words. So we have to take notes of those words or phrases. Now, journals, we are, I think LaSalle has our in-house journal, but also USLS is also following and trying to use and direct its employees, and as well as students, to journals which are suggested by the Commission on Higher Education. And amo gid ang usually nga primary option for looking into database. And if we're looking, it is much better which journal you intend publish. So the references, I think, would give a much higher. I'm not sure if you would agree, Sir Kim or Doc Kim, if ang
Mm.
acceptance rate ng mga journals if references mo is from them as well.
Come again?
Ang acceptance rate sa mga journals, if most of your reference or at least a few of your references are from their publication as
Mm.
well.
Yeah, sometimes, no? Especially if sa isa ka journal, may, kung kaisa ba lang, I don't know if you're aware, no? There are some journals that are, your paper has a higher chance of being published if the references are from a certain journal also. Like, kumbaga, parang, I don't want to say this. It's like, they prefer that most of your references would come to certain list of journals, and because they think they're quite reputable. Maybe some of them have high impact journals. I don't know, but there are so many things involved in that now, and I have to agree with that, Sir John.
Oo. Yes, sir. I think one of the reasons man siguro I think this is vocal gid man ni ang ano no, ang research isa na somewhere in your reference or the journal has to be reputable gid, and kay kadamo
Mm.
gid kuno sang I would quote that
Mga predatory.
and which is very true and somehow kay I think I do have one colleague nga gin-reject ang iyang nga paper. It's because why reference from there or why ginsight from there
Yes, yes,
so
I
do ka
agree.
adlaw kami amo na. But yes, amo na that's why the Commission on Higher Education has suggested sa only a few galing actually sir ang nakita ko to maging sense akon sa research committees that due time malanggali ang ginasuggest ni Chad, which are very high impact journals get. So it's a good thing kay kanami sila hindi gid mapulbaan nga is nga predatory siya.
Mga
Galing
Scopus,
kay
no? Or mga WS, Web of
oh,
Science.
so medyo kabudlay galing sulod mo lang.
Correct. Exactly.
But still. So if you would like to have since budline dan magsulod, but if your references, if your literature would come from such journals, so I think there is an impact to which mas hapos ka makapublish. And information databases. So these are actually commercial sources. One of which is Google or the search engines. They are actually looking for. They're actually within the information, taking in results as well from information databases, and so these are basically these are ang mga information stored online which are basically open to the public and is also available to any database which actually and oftentimes there are I think one of which would be ang damo ko na makita would be PDF copies of books no may it be, usually mga textbook or mga reference book and amo na siya makita for the information database nga download ko sa mga copies which I would use for my class. Now we have what we call the interlibrary zone. So I'm not sure here I'm not sure actually here in Negros what's the if this exists. That means one university or one college is sharing information, sharing documents, no, but not in. But I think this would be ano gid siguro very how would you call this? Very secured. Yeah, I think one of my colleagues naka-share man so when he was doing his dissertation is that um, ang USLS does not have that much of paper sa iyang field. So what he did is he asked for approval from other universities, or I think that was a state college na nagpag-ayo to siya kung pwede siya maka-search or maka-use ang mga previous research results or dissertation papers produced by a different entity. And good thing that the other college approved. no? And galing kay hindi ka hindi ka siguro sila nga makahulam kang kadalon mo sa but rather more on you will be visiting their library and
Yeah.
the books physically. Yeah. And although I think I'm not sure here in the Philippines or locally, but the others do there are those nga open access gid sila ya for the public or at least for students or for those who are taking postgraduate studies. May lagi nga open sila even though it's not under their institution, but somehow very secured man because limited either limited lang ang access mo or you have to go there physically again. And I'm not sure sir may ari na di sa aton sir or have you experienced that may interlibrary loan ta?
Interlibrary. Sa mga open access, I'm not sure. Pero ang amon, like in my previous university before, I think may access sila sa mga outside, external. Hindi lang ko sure kung may access siya sa mga local. I'm not very sure. Sa inyo, sir, sa Lasal?
Ang nabalaan ko sir is that ang students na gini ang OPAC naman, we can
Ang
access sa may
IUPAC,
mga
IUPAC.
pero ang when it comes to external, or for example, the people from the outside who would try to access, ang nabalaan ko ginaalaw lang nila is ang ilang mga ang alumni lang. Then you have to write a letter pa. At least that's what I know of. Pero ang KAMSI, actually, if maka-write ka letter, it's either siguro may connection ka da or or they do actually allow basta may letter ka na they will allow you to read through the mga research papers.
Yeah.
And next is sige lang, studying at a distance. So I think this was with us for the longest time, like even before the pandemic. And one thing is that I think worst case or just he has to have access to the resources sa LaSalle. It's a good thing ang LaSalle is we have the online access at the library, so he would be able to use that. And there are actually implications, unfortunately, for this is that, for example, not all the reference book na kinanlanon or references would be available online or have an electronic copy. So that's one of the disadvantages of studying at a distance if you're looking for references. Especially, although most papers are being published galing kay those papers are not necessarily complete the papers. The only
You have to
journal
pay.
format. May ngiban sir told you na sir mapay either pay ka or you can write a letter sa authors.
Yeah.
Sila. And as database are generally available through the web, there is more scope for studying at a distance naman. Yeah, that's a good thing naman. And you will need to discover what I think passwords or keywords. No? I think that's why earlier terminologies or the terms would matter when you're trying to search for database. And also, we have to keep track of citations and references. And why ko ni kabalo sa una nga mo niya mano-mano ko sa una sa undergrad ko
Same.
So APA, so kapila po ng liwat-liwat so na kayo masala ko, especially ang mga online references. But there are actually, I think na-mention ni Ms. Darren Dina, ang Sotero, EndNote, Mendeley, these are, what pa ko try, but these are actually very simple. Is nakalang ka-click. I think what I've tried is ang sa ResearchGate. Once you have found a paper, that paper is relevant, may nakuha ka itong information, there is an option to cite sa ResearchGate. To cite this paper or cite this author, I think. And then automatic na ang ihatag sa mo is, I think, depende ko na mga format. I think one of them. And I did find other databases well. May mga amonas ng option for citation. So copy-paste ka na lang. And then you're good to go. Now, copy-paste of citations, I mean. And use a reference management software. So I'm going to see examples here are on the slide. I think ang pinaka-common sa mga universities, not sure here in the Philippines, but outside is ang EndNote and Mendeley, ang Zotero. Now, know the format of the institution or your journal for the publication. So sa Lasal, ang IMRAD ang ginagamit ng format. And but this would change if you're trying to publish outside USLS or mga journals. So the journals do provide, however, the format. All you need to do is download their format, and you can rewrite your paper in accordance with the format. And last two slides na lang. A technique to ensure that research data remains available for future research beyond the duration of the current project. So that's why we have database. And also, it's not just for you to have it published, but actually it's for a future reference as well. And electronic nature of research output, that's excuse me. So most of the outputs are, although not the whole book, but most of which are published online. May electronic copies na. But only a small fraction is made visible or either made available for the public. And we can actually reuse potential of data. So this emphasizes that data collected for one project can potentially support future research initiatives. So that's why we have several ways for us to collect data, and not just from actually gathering data through sampling, but rather recorded data from previous studies as well. As long as, of course, resources would allow us to use their data. And responsibilities of research students or us researchers is that we're expected to adhere data management requirements set by the bodies, either our university or if we are under a grant or if we're under a fund. So depende sa ila naman yung regulations or policies. And lastly, so regarding information and library services, so as a whole, we have to plan out. No? If we have a topic, if we have a research topic, we have to think of or find or make a path on how how we would find references or pangapakapangita sa ato literature. So where do you start? And along the way, you would be able to see actually more references or more database wherein maka-pull out the more information. So give yourself plenty of time to obtain the materials you need. So that's why if you have spare time, especially if you're starting up lang sa mga paper, you really have to read and of course search for the proper references. Check out all the information sources at your disposal. So as much as possible, pangita, get whatever database that you can search on, search what you can, search titles which would be relevant to your study, and then of course good thing man can publish would be the simplified results, so we can actually see if those results are relevant or those would be useful as our references. And record it, and this is one of my mistakes in doing thesis. I do try to keep a record, but not as efficient and effective. Um, and I think one of the suggestions is that hindi ka mag-rely save data sa iyong computer. And it's best if you use a cloud storage. For example, si Lasal is using the Google Cloud storage using our email. So we can actually use that para mag-save some data. It's because I really find this convenient. So in my case, sa teaching ko, I do have a laptop here at home. Nadiligig ko yung work laptop, and then I have a separate laptop. Mga case aga nabilin ko sa Lasal, it's because kabugat magdala-dala. And what I do is basically sync lang sa cloud. No? It's very convenient. Galing kay drawback lang is dapat may internet ka once you sync. But the thing is, if maguba ang laptop mo, it's either you have the other laptop or you have your data on the cloud. So that's one good thing that I was able to observe, or if you're trying to have a good record as well, of your information. So that answered my discussion information and library services.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So wow, no, so we have three reporters so far, and those are also jam-packed, no, with plenty of information. So thank you, Ma'am Darren, Sir Jimmy, and Sir Jan. Okay, so actually we should be finishing until what do you call this? Uh, until report 9. But anyway, so we are until report 6, no? Anyways, I just this coming Saturday, next weekend, no, we are actually asynchronous. I don't know. Di ba the Chinese New Year will be moved sa Friday? Am I right? Correct me if I'm wrong. The Chinese New Year is moved sa Friday, February 9.
Wala
So we
man,
still
sir.
have some. Well,
Wala man gin-move. Instead, ang Feb 9 was declared a Chinese a holiday para malengthen para magkaroon sila ng long weekend baga.
okay. So it's still on 10. So meaning di kita ka-meet, no? Di kita ka-meet personal this Saturday. Okay, so we still have three reports. So okay, so let me put this off the review and the record and I'll give me a second.